Hello everyone, I'm making another video for the class here, Curriculum 101, Education Technology. I hope to see you guys all next week. So this will be the first of two videos that I'm making for you. And both these videos are going to be about learning theories. This first one is going to be about learning theories and behaviorism. And once you finish watching this video, there'll be a short quiz for you to take on Blackboard. Again, you can open up the PPT from Blackboard. You can rewatch this video while you're taking the quiz. The quiz is just to help remind you and help you think about some of the key points for this video. So let's get into it, learning theories and behaviorism. So today I'm going to talk about learning theories and talk a little bit about how a particular type of learning theory, meaning the learning theory of behaviorism, interacts with education technology. Now, first a comment. Some of you have messaged me about presentations. Don't worry about your presentations. Next Monday and Tuesday, depending on your class, I will come and I will explain everything to you. I haven't decided 100% what I'm going to do, but we will find a very simple, easy solution so you can very quickly and confidently handle your presentations so everyone can get a nice grade and we can finish it without too much stress. So don't worry, we'll talk about that next week, okay? All right, so let me tell you about Miss Sheha. Miss Sheha is teaching a Spanish class. In Miss Sheha's Spanish class, the students are learning Spanish at their computers. They're studying vocabulary. Now, they're on a computer, and the computer is presenting sentences to them. It's giving them harder and harder phrases of Spanish. And each sentence has a blank space. So, for example, blank space, te amas. Blank space, viva Maria. Blank space, ud de Mexico, senora. After the students answer, the computer gives them feedback. If the students get all three correct, the students get the next set of questions. If there's an error, the computer makes an annoying beep, beep noise and then gives a hint to help answer. If the answer is incorrect again, the student gives the correct answer. So just imagine this class in your mind. There's 30 students at 30 different computers filling out these empty blank spaces and getting feedback from the computer, right? So it's a type of class. You guys can kind of all imagine this class. Now, let's go across the hall, not Miss Sheha's class, but let's check out Miss Alia's class. Well, in Miss Alia's class, the students are also learning Spanish. And in Miss Alia's class, the students are using computers to write emails to their pals, their email friends in Spain. The students brainstorm some topics together. Then they get into groups to write the letters, to write the emails. Then the students help each other to write the letters. Then they send them. Then the students in Spain, they write emails back and forward, right? They do this in Spanish for a month and they send letters back and forward, right? So we have two classes, right? We have Miss Sheha's class with the students sitting in front of their computers filling out these sentences, right? Then we have Miss Alia's class where the students are writing in groups, brainstorming together. Now, why are these classes different? Well, these classes are different because the teachers have different learning theories, right? One teacher thinks about learning a certain kind of way, and the other teacher thinks about learning a different kind of way. And in this lecture and some future lectures, we're going to talk about these different ways of thinking about teaching, these different ways of thinking about learning, right? And how these different theories, learning theories, right, make us do different things when we teach. If we have a different theory about learning, we will have a different theory about teaching. If we have a different theory about teaching, we are going to teach in a different way. So we're going to talk about what a learning theory is. We're going to talk a little bit about why we should care about learning theories. We're going to talk about behaviorism, which is our first learning theory. And then we're going to talk about how behaviorism makes us think about teaching and learning. And then we're going to think about technology and how technology might apply or interact with behaviorism or the behaviorist learning theory. So first of all, what is a learning theory? I'm not going to dig into this super deeply, right? In fact, you may learn about learning theories in other classes and from other perspectives. But a learning theory is just an organized set of principles explaining how individuals learn. That is, how they acquire new knowledge and or abilities. So what a learning theory is a theory about learning, an idea about how people learn. Maybe now, if you want, it would be cool for you just to pause this video and spend a few seconds just thinking, like, how do people learn? What I mean by this is, how does information come from the outside world to be stored inside your brain or to change your behavior or to change your attitudes? How does learning occur? Maybe just have a think about that. It's an interesting question, right? Now, there are actually lots of different ways of thinking about learning and thinking about learning theories. In fact, if I asked all 50 of you or 100 of you of my students, all of you might have different ideas and different theories about learning. I'm going to talk about the three main theories of learning: behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructivism. And they're just ways of understanding how people learn. So you might ask yourself, oh, learning theories, the human brain, why do I learn about learning theories? Why do I have to learn about learning theories? Well, learning theories are very useful, right? Because it allows us to understand why we see the things we see and why we do a particular thing. What does that mean? Well, when you're teaching, you're going to find in your career, and maybe you have experience as a student, some techniques work, some techniques don't work, right? A learning theory allows us to understand why something worked in the classroom and why something didn't work in the classroom, or why something might be useful and why it might not be useful. That means it's more adaptable and flexible, right, than just knowing the answer, right? If you have an understanding about learning theories, if you have an understanding about the way people learn, right, you can think about what to do in many different kinds of situations. Every classroom is different. Every group of students are different, right? So just knowing the perfect answer to a particular question is not always helpful. It's better to have a theory or a general concept or idea about how people learn, and then you can adapt it or you can use it in many different types of situations. That's why we should care about learning theories, even if you're a teacher. So let's start with our first learning theory, behaviorism, right? It has this word behavior in it, and you may or may not be able to easily guess this, but behaviorism is really, really concerned with people's behavior, right? So what is the behaviorist learning process, right? So this is a little bit weird and it's kind of hard to understand now, but it will be easier to understand maybe later when you start to compare behaviorist learning to other learning theories. But in behaviorist learning, behaviors are learned through connections between events in the environment and resulting actions, right? Events in the environment and resulting actions, right? So something happens in the outside world and there's some result. Something happens, then there's a result, right? Let me give you an example. I put my hand on the hot stove. Ah! Okay? I got burnt, right? There was an event. My hand goes onto the stove. There was a result. My hand gets burnt, right? I learned something. What did I learn? Don't touch the hot stove, right? And behaviorists often think about learning in terms of reward or punishment, right? How do we learn from a behaviorist perspective? We learn because all of our life, all of the time, there's little things that are good, there's little things that are bad. There are all of these little actions that are happening, right? And when we take these actions, right, there will be some kind of result. And that result could be positive or it could be negative, right? So, to give an example, maybe you guys don't remember, but you can stop or maybe you can ask your mom this question, which is, what is the first word that I ever said? It's a fun question to ask your mom. And for most of you guys, the first word that you ever said is probably the word mom or mama, or I'm sorry, I don't know the Emirati word for mom, but for many children, their first word is mom, right? And so you can imagine sitting on your mom's knee when you're 1 year old or 6 months old or something like that, and you say mama for the first time, right? You say mama for the first time, right? Maybe you have brothers or sisters and you've seen this with them, right? So what happens when you say mama for the first time? Well, it's like winning a gold medal at the Olympics, right? Your mom says, "Oh, you're so great. I love you." She picks you up, she hugs you, she calls maybe your father or your aunties all into the room and says, "Look, look, look, look. My little darling, my little son, my little daughter said, 'Mama, say it.'" And you say, "Mama," again, and everyone goes crazy, right? So you're making this behavior. You're saying mama, and you're getting this result, this very, very big result, right? Of everyone loving you, everyone, rewarding you and stuff like that, right? You can think about another example. When you're a baby, you're lying in bed and you cry. Well, what happens when you cry? You cry because you're not comfortable. So you make the sound. You cry, right? Then mom or somebody comes and gives you milk or changes your diaper or solves whatever problem you have, right? Well, now you feel comfortable, right? What did you learn? You learned something. If I cry, someone will solve my problems, right? If I say mama, everybody is happy. Okay, cool. So if I want everyone to be happy, I should say mama. Okay, cool. If I want someone to solve my problems, I should cry. Okay, cool, right? So behaviorists are really concerned with this relationship between your action and the reward or the punishment, right? And as you can see here, behaviorism is also really, really focused on not so much on your brain, but observable action rather than internal mental processes, right? So notice here in my two examples, or my three examples, touching the stove, right? Um, don't touch the stove. It's an action, right? Saying mama, it's an action, right? Crying, it's an action, right? Behaviorists are really concerned with behavior, not so much what's happening inside the brain. Behaviorists are really concerned with what can I see? What's the behavior that I can see? Okay. So the behaviorist definition of learning then is defined by the external environment. Learning is described as how does someone behave in a particular situation, right? What is learning from a behaviorist perspective? Learning is behavior. If someone does something correctly, they have learned, right? Now, this might seem like obvious or kind of not that smart when you first think about it. But when you start to learn about other learning theories, you'll see why behaviorism is a little bit different, right? Very important. They're focusing on the observable action, the thing that you can see the student doing. Like in the classroom, what can you see the student do, right? So what is the teacher's role in the context of behaviorism? If we're concerned with behavior, right, what is the teacher's main job? Well, the first thing the teacher must do, if we're concerned about behavior, is to have goals that are focused on specific learner behaviors, right? So behaviorist teachers don't like the word learn. They would rather say do or complete or something like that. So they wouldn't say something like the students know how to swim. They would say the students swim 50 meters backstroke, right? They would give a specific behavioral objective, right? So one of the goals or the things that teachers should do from a behaviorist perspective is to make sure the lesson is focused on observable behavior. Next, behaviorists like to think of things in lots and lots of different little steps because they want to reward and they want to take each step by step, right? So they like to separate larger learning objectives into small constituent objectives. This just basically means instead of having a big idea, let's say riding a bike, instead of having riding a bike as one big idea, behaviorists like to take that big idea and chop it into smaller ideas. So objective number 1, how does the person sit on the bike? Objective number 2, can they balance on the bike? Objective number 3, can they move on the bike? So they like to take this big idea, riding a bike, and separate it into small constituent objectives, right? This is really important in behaviorism because you're looking for the observable behavior. You don't trust what's happening inside the learner's mind. You only trust what you see, right? So you want to have lots and lots of steps, lots and lots of observable steps, behavioral steps that you can see. Then behaviorists like to organize things from easy to difficult or simple to complex, right? You take your objective, like I said, you take your behavioral objective, right? You chop it into steps and then you organize. You start with the simple steps. What's step 1? What's step 2? What's step 3? What's step 4, right? And through each step, you observe their behavior. And then you also provide immediate feedback. Like I said, behaviorism revolves around this idea of reward and so on and so forth, right? So students need to know when they try a behavior, are they performing that behavior correctly? Is that behavior the correct behavior or not? So they need an immediate feedback. So these are the main concepts that you need to integrate into your own lessons from behaviorism. Now, what about technology, right? What role does technology, or what are some examples of how technology can be implemented into a behaviorist lesson? Technology can play a significant role in the behaviorist instruction because it helps with bringing information, it can help with providing feedback, and it can help with facilitating reinforcement, meaning, feedback, punishment, and reward. So one way, of course, that's very simple and very obvious, is that technology can present content for learners to respond to, right? Examples of how they should behave. Technology enables various presentations of different forms of content, video simulations, online activities, lectures, so on and so forth, right? So this is a kind of classic standard way of presenting information to help students behave in the right way. Also, technology can be used to give immediate feedback. Think about the example of Kahoot, right? You press a button and you know immediately what your answer is. Or in Blackboard, you guys are going to take a quiz, and at the end of that quiz, you're going to be able to see what your score is very, very easily. Technology can be used to help give immediate feedback. Digital platforms can provide instant feedback to students, right? And it can help them change their behavior and guide them towards more correct action. Another thing, gamification, which we've talked about before. Gamification is very, very influenced by a behaviorist perspective. Do you remember the things we talked about? Rewards, changing behavior step by step, making it competitive. This is a really behaviorist way of thinking about learning. And as we've talked about, gamified learning platforms leverage elements of game design like points, levels, and rewards that can motivate learner and reinforce desired behaviors. Also, technology can be used to track someone's progress. In behaviorism, like we're talking about, we're focusing on different behavior and changing in behavior. So it's important for students to know how well they're doing. Is their behavior correct, right? So technology enables teachers to monitor students' progress and behavior over time. It allows for targeted interventions and adjustments to instruction as needed, right? So that's all we have for today. We've covered some of the very basic concepts of behaviorism. You can go to Blackboard and there's a quiz on this topic. And I'm going to send you another video about another learning theory, probably on Thursday. But don't forget to go and do the quiz right now. I hope you guys all have a great day and are doing fine. And I will see you in the next video in a couple of days. Thank you very much for your attention. See you soon.